So if we are comfortable just sitting on the floor, that's great. If anybody prefers starting in a chair, that's fine too. And you have been sitting around kind of listening to us talk for a little bit. So if you did have any kind of movements you wanted to do to loosen up and be more comfortable, that is totally fine. And then we'll use our anchor breath. This has some different names, but usually I say anchor breath to kind of anchor us to the spot. And we take a hand to heart and a hand to belly. And this can help give us some feedback. Sometimes we don't know what we're feeling until we put our hands on our bodies to send more information to our minds. So we use our hands on our breath to kind of anchor us in the present moment, anchor our mind if our thoughts are feeling pretty scattered, and let's just breathe fully. Option to close the eyes here and turn our attention inward. If we don't like closing our eyes, I always say let's just relax the muscles around the eyes and pick a spot on the floor to focus on. And the reason we close the eyes is to tune out any external distractions. And we can accomplish that simply by picking a spot on the floor to focus on instead. So whatever we're more comfortable with. And let's scan the body head to toe. And let's see if we can observe without judging. The same way, an explorer might take a look at animals on the savannah and think, ooh, the lion is walking around the watering hole. Let's observe our emotions, kind of like animals in nature. So we might think, oh, I'm feeling a little antsy this evening, and just notice it and kind of watch that feeling. Or maybe it's on a physical level, noticing, oh, my back is feeling a little sore this evening, and we just watch it and notice. So I'll give us a minute here, simply to breathe and tune into our bodies. And whatever we're noticing, if we feel ourselves judging it, that's okay. We can just let that thought go, come back to noticing. It might be helpful in our own minds to frequently say, noticing, or that's okay. And let's see if we can allow the breath to be gentle while still consciously allowing it to be deep. So we probably notice movements of our shoulders, rib cage, chest. And we'll keep this breath going. If we forget about it, that's okay. I'll keep reminding us, but let's go ahead and open our eyes and we'll get moving. We can release our hands wherever they're comfortable. And let's draw some circles with our shoulders. Often people hold tension in their neck and shoulders, so what we might actually like to do is squeeze our shoulders up to our ears and actually squeeze the jaw at the same time. And maybe make a face like we've just eaten a sour candy, and then really heavy, let the shoulders drop and let that tension release. You might like that. We could do it a few more times. Big breath in, squeeze it up. And then as we breathe out, let it go. And you may feel the need, just like I just did, to let some sounds out. I would say that's great. Go for it. Just let it out, let it go. Okay, we'll slide those shoulders away from our ears. And let's do one that's designed to create heat and kind of cook our emotions up from the inside. We'll just draw a circle with our bodies. Sometimes it's called a spinning top. And everyone responds differently to all of these yoga poses, so you may not find that this leaves you feeling cooked, but I do want to build some warmth so that when we go to lie down and relax, we're not too cold. And we're also limbering up through our hips and back, places that often get quite tight. And if we're stressed, really get kind of squeezed down. And you may like to make bigger, smoother, slower circles or smaller, faster circles. That's up to you. Some people really like to make big, kind of dramatic circles. And really, I would say anytime we get our blood pumping, we have an opportunity to notice our emotions. So you may notice the body kind of producing emotions. I mean, we have our focus emotion this week, but maybe for you, you're noticing all sorts of other feelings coming up, and they might not even make sense. Okay, let's notice which direction we're going, and we'll go the other direction. I took a yoga class once where we did some kind of kneeling exercise I'd never done before, and I just could not stop laughing. So these things happen, and I would say we're in a safe place. Just let it bubble up, let it go, as long as that feels safe. Again, we might like to place a hand on chest or belly, noticing our breathing, or maybe our cheeks, noticing our physical temperature. And then we'll come back through center, setting our spine in the middle, and let's notice how closed we're feeling in our hearts. So sometimes sitting on the floor can really shut us down if we're not used to it. So we can test again when we come to standing. But let's notice, do I feel like my shoulders are coming forward? Do I feel like my chest is dropped? Or do I feel like I can grow my spine a little bit more? I like thinking about this in the spring because little sprouts are growing up. Maybe we can picture our spines as a little sprout growing up. Or maybe we feel like we're not a very big sprout yet. That's okay. We can focus reaching upward as we go through the rest of our movements. Okay, we'll take our spines side to side. So let's take one hand down, one hand up and over, and we'll just keep flowing back and forth. So I do like to pick these repetitive movements for a couple of reasons. If you are an advanced student or teacher, repetitive movements can help us pay more attention to what we're doing, get in a rhythm, get in a trance. And if you are a beginner student, then we're not doing all sorts of complicated movements that are tough to follow. So really, the advanced poses are the beginner poses, and the beginner poses are the advanced poses. But we usually start by moving the spine and the rib cage so that we can deepen our breathing as we go. Let's go just once more each way. All right, we got one more here. Let's do our arms like a genie. And we'll start rotation. We'll go repetitive, one side and then the other, back and forth. So we're leading with the elbow, and then the rib cage and the spine comes with it. And usually people like to do a pretty big twist. Not everybody. I'm not the biggest fan of twists. I don't find them too comfortable. So I say that to let you know that you don't have to like every pose. If it feels good going small, we could go big with the arms, making a nice big sweep. Taking hand to opposite knee, maybe doing a little push on our leg to help us get a bit further. And yes, if we want to turn the head, we can. If we want to keep the head straight forward, that's always an option too. Sometimes these movements, breathing and moving the head, can make us dizzy, so we can just move more naturally. Okay, once more each way. We'll release the arms. And if we're sitting on something, probably we're moving it out of the way because we are moving into child's pose. So child's pose is usually described as our resting pose. If we can, we sit on our heels and then walk our bodies forward to lay our bellies on our thighs. And we can take forearms down or arms straight forward. So we can take this as an opportunity to check in, but also notice the stretch that we get in our arms in this overhead range of motion. Let's take one more breath here. And we'll do a variation of kneeling lunge. So I'm going to take my right foot forward between my hands and climb on up. Sometimes it's a tricky one to get into. It takes a little navigating to get our foot forward. I'll show us a couple different variations, but we start by shifting our weight front and back. So as we shift forward, if our right foot's in front, we're loosening up the front of the left hip. And as we shift back, we're loosening up the back of the right leg. So it's not always the most comfortable if we're on a hard floor. We might need to double the mat under our knee. There are knee pads. I don't know if anybody can't put weight on their knee. You can actually do this pose from standing. Same kind of idea, but standing up. We can always make it work. We might like to move more slowly, more quickly. I will leave that up to you. Again, we're listening to our inner teacher. And sometimes it is said that the emotion of fear is held in our hips. And my guess for that is because if we're scared, sometimes we want to kind of close in to protect ourselves or maybe run away. And both of those movements tighten up the front of the hip. That's my guess. So if we notice we're tight in our hips, we don't judge, we just limber up. Okay, the next time we're in the back range of motion, let's switch sides. We can move through child's pose if that's comfortable. Again, having a little pause. Checking in with how we're feeling, probably noticing that one side of the body feels different than the other now. And then we're taking the opposite foot forward. Might have to help it along. And we're shifting our weight back and front when we're ready. And often the recommendation is to take a pretty big step between the front heel and the back knee, so that we create a hole underneath ourselves to slide our bodies into. Can often be more stable, a little bit easier on our ankle mobility. We might like to do a bigger range of motion to the back or to the front. So we could go a really small range of motion as well. Sorry, I should have mentioned that on the first side. Doesn't have to be huge. Remember, if we're super bendy, we might not need to stretch so far because we're already bendy, in which case we get the benefit from balancing as we go front and back, staying strong without overdoing it. All right, let this be our last one. And this time we're going to step forward into a forward fold. So we can take our feet together, step the feet in. Maybe we're letting our belly rest on our thighs for a moment here, or doing a little gentle shake of the head. It can sometimes be soothing to have the belly rest down. And then we'll make our way without rushing to the top of the mat. All right, let's start. We'll make some big movements here. So if you do have a yoga mat, we'll step side on the yoga mat. And again, we'll do repetitive flows. So please stand however you can see me, but I promise we're not going to do anything super complicated. Let's lift up and out into star pose. And then we'll take our hands to one thigh, bending one leg, straightening the other. So if you are mirroring me, bending the right, straightening the left, we'll come to star pose, and then we'll take it to the other side, bending the other way. And that's our pattern. We'll go back and forth. Super big movement, tall and proud, claim the space, and then strong in the legs. Let's keep going. Inhaling up, exhaling down. Don't worry if I'm on the right and you're on your left. It's all good. Are we breathing? Then we're in good shape. Are we moving? Are we feeling? Fantastic. We can pause at any time we like. And one safety concern I will give for the comfort and stability of our ankles is as we move through, just make sure both feet are flat on the mat. Sometimes the outside of the ankles can peel up. Let's push them down. Maybe noticing, how does it feel to be in such a big pose? Not everybody likes that. How does it feel to be working the strength of our legs? Let's go once more each way. And you might have your own style or way of doing it. I would say that's perfect. Embrace that expression. We'll pause in star pose. Let's take a big breath, reaching to the sky. And let's start with our hands on our hips. We'll do what's called a dancing warrior 2. So we're going to alternate warrior 2 side to side. So one foot can stay where it is. And if you're going with me, we'll keep the left foot where it is and we'll turn the right toes out for warrior 2. Ta-da! That's it. We'll pivot. So we'll turn the right toes forward and the left toes out for warrior 2. That's it. So we're kind of surfing one side and then the other. And these are the arms that I like to do. So if we flip our palms up and arms out to T, we can reach our hands overhead, touch palms or fingertips, and then lower down. Okay, looks good. That's our pattern. We might really be challenging our strength and stability, coming low. So we're working the strength in our legs. If we want to really make sure that we're stable, again, both feet stay flat and the knee isn't wobbling all over the place. Sometimes our knees have a tendency to go for a little wander. Ideally, the knee stays in the same direction, even though we're bending and straightening the legs. Whew. I hope we're feeling warm. I hope our heart is lifted. Let's come back through to center. We'll pause for a moment in star, reaching up tall and proud. Let's take our hands to our hips again, and we'll come into a variation of star pose here. Again, we'll keep working feet and ankles, feeling strong and balanced. This one is tricky, so let's be patient with ourselves. Again, we can take our hands out to T. This time, maybe it's easier, palms down. Let's lift one heel at a time. I don't know if anybody has a dance background. It'll probably be easier for you. Maybe our feet never move into this position. It's a little tricky, and it's asking us to be really strong through our inner thighs, the inside of the lower leg. If we like, we can lift both heels together. So the upper body doesn't really move anywhere. We could even come into our anchor breath to help us concentrate, or arms out at T to help us balance. Ooh, let's see if we can do a couple more. And then I want to give us a little breather. We can drop the heels. Sometimes it feels nice to turn the feet forward and come into a wide-legged forward fold. Or some of us might prefer it with the legs bent to come really low and release the inner thighs. Yogi's choice. So those are our two choices. We can stretch the back of the legs or the inside of the legs. Let's take a couple more breaths here. Okay, let's come all the way up to standing. We'll walk the feet in, and we can step to the short edge of the mat. So we're standing on our mat, sort of like a diving board. And we'll do a warrior 1 flow here. So we can go right and left or left and right. Doesn't matter. We'll keep doing these repetitive flows to help you get into it. But let's definitely start this time with our posture. We'll take our fingertips to our shoulders to help us lift tall. And we don't have to really like pop our chest forward. We just want to be aware that we are standing tall without slumping. Remember this idea of spaghetti? We don't want to be overcooked spaghetti. Okay, we'll step right foot back into warrior 1. So sort of like a lunge position, our back foot is flat, our front foot is flat, and the back foot is turned out. We'll alternate side to side. So let's step forward and the left foot back. And you may go at different speed than me or have a different personal style than me. Maybe some of us like to take a really big step. Some of us like to take a small step. Usually this is a pretty tough balance challenge to keep our bodies straight as our legs are moving. But if we want to add on, we can open our arms like a goalpost as we step back. Sometimes these are called cactus arms. And you can see even me, I'm wobbling a little bit here. That's okay. So anytime we are closing our body forward, we're shortening the muscles of the chest. And now here we get the opportunity to squeeze the muscles of the back to stretch the muscles of the chest. All right, can I give us a coordination challenge? Let's all Step back with the right foot. Might not be the world's biggest challenge for you. Okay, we'll lift the back heel. Usually that helps with this one be a little bit steadier. So our right foot is in the back. And we're going to take our right hand down. And if we don't know right or left, whichever foot is in the back, that's the same hand that's coming down. And then we're going to turn and twist towards our front leg. So it's a twisted lunge. I could have told us that before we got here. Might help to put our left hand on our left knee. And then we turn our closed heart, twisting it open to the front knee. If we like to make it bigger and more dramatic, we can take our arms to T. So our free hand reaches up to the sky and our floor hand keeps pressing down. Okay, the tricky part, we're going to make our way back up to standing. We might need to step our 2 feet together, or maybe we're climbing up our front thigh. And everybody, we will make our way back to mountain at the top of our mat. Maybe we want to shake it off. We just gave our bodies a little challenge. I'll give us the option to tap on the collarbones. Sometimes that can help us to reset. Deep breath in and out. And we know we got 2 sides, don't we? So let's take the opposite foot back. In this case, it's the right foot. We're lifting the heel. So our hips are square. We're strong and stable, powerful in the lower body. Whichever leg is in the back, that same hand is going down. We have right hand to right knee. We are opening our closed heart towards the front knee. Now it is an open heart. Maybe we're opening our arms to T, moving in 2 directions. So our floor hand pushes down at the same time that our sky hand reaches skyward. Challenging our stability. Let's see how little movement we can have in the body while we hold this position. We're going to make our way back to standing. Let's see if we can climb up our thigh or maybe step forward into forward fold to help us up. We'll come into mountain and give our collarbones a little tap, releasing emotion through our collarbones. We've got one more powerful pose here. So I'm going to turn and face you. You can face me however you are at home. What are we doing? We're going to do a variation of a chair flow. So our chair pose, like we're sitting down and back into an invisible chair. But for today, let's make strong fists in front of our hearts. And then we're going to do like a karate slice as we come down. So we're going to inhale on the way down and exhale on the way up. So we can do a sharp breath out as the hands come down. And that's our flow. Inhale to sit, exhale to stand. Super strong with the arms, slicing through the air. So we are strong, we are powerful, we got lots of energy in the upper body, strength in the lower body. And again, I encourage all of us to have our own personal style. Maybe we like to add twisting with our slicing. Maybe we want to do bigger movements with the arms. Let's do, I don't know, maybe 6 more here, depending on how quick we're going. Again, we have that option to make noise. Some people really like to go as they exhale. Okay, last one. We'll come to standing. And again, if we like a little reset, we can tap our collarbones here. How are we doing? Good. All right, let's start to bring our heart rate down. Let's do a flowing tree pose. So again, you can stay facing me. We just need a little space to step side to side. Maybe we're doing our anchor breath or our posture check. We'll go side to side, right? So let's pick one side to come into tree, turning the knee out, and then the other side to come into tree, turning the knee out. I'll layer on a couple options, but our goal is to bring our kind of energy and our heart rate down to a more peaceful state, less power oriented, more gentle oriented. If we want to sweep the arms, we can, up and out. Exhale, hands through heart. Maybe we're slowing it down, so we're holding our tree pose a little bit longer. Noticing which side feels like a sturdier tree, and then we're going to hold on the sturdier side. So I feel maybe this is my sturdier side today. We could put our arms to T, or again, hand to heart and belly to anchor us here. Pause for one more round of breath. If we fall out, we reset, finish on a successful note. With control, let's take it to the other side. Again, maybe we're checking in with our posture. Do we feel our tree is growing upwards to the sun? Are we rooting downwards to the earth? And with our next breath out, we can go ahead and release. All right, we'll step to the top of our mats and we'll start to make our way down to the floor. We might like to come down the same way we came up, resting our belly on our thighs. It can, like I said, feel kind of soothing to rest our belly on our thighs, depending if we just ate dinner. And I'll give us one more option of belly to thigh or belly down. We can step backwards to our child's pose to rest our bellies down. Pausing for a moment. Some of us might prefer sleeping crocodile, completely lying on our bellies. Maybe stacking our hands to drop our forehead to the back of the hands. And I know I said that our muscular poses are supposed to produce hope molecules. Our belly pressing poses are supposed to release more relaxation, safety, and contentment molecules, so serotonin from the stomach. We may even like to take one hand under our belly at the very top of our belly and then lie on top of our one hand, so we only have one hand under the forehead. So we have a little extra press on the belly. If you did just eat dinner, maybe save this one for later. We can always have child's pose instead. Otherwise, we'll stay here another round of breath. Notice how this one feels, how this one works for you. Let's turn it into a strengthening option. We'll lift our bodies up, flying the arms back in a variation of locust. Let's see if we can stretch the crown of the head forward, stretching our necks longer. And then we'll make our way all the way back to child's. And we'll briefly come to take a seat. We can do a few neck rolls here, might feel nice. So we'll take chin to chest and then rotate ear to shoulder one way and ear to shoulder the other way. Might help to let the jaw hang open while we do this. Can sometimes feel more relaxing, or to breathe blowing through our lips, sometimes called like a horse breath. Come back into center. Okay, this is probably our last really up and out, optimistic, heart opening pose. We will take our legs forward if we're comfortable with that. And you might want to, again, turn side on your mat like I am. We'll come to lie down after this. And almost like we are sunning ourselves on the beach, we'll take our fingertips beside and kind of behind, lift the heart, and importantly too, lift the chin and the eyes. So we want to take our eyes to the ceiling. And our eyes send a message to our bodies and our emotions. If we look down, we might feel maybe more focused, more sad or tired. And if we look up, it can help us to feel more optimistic. And if we look up with the eyes closed, maybe we feel more peaceful. Just see how you notice it, how it works for you. We'll come back through to center. Let's go ahead and make our way to lie down on our backs. If you need a final drink, a sweater, anything else, feel free to get it. Otherwise, we'll meet lying on our backs. I'm just going to grab a quick drink. All right, and then once we are down here on our backs, and no rush to get there, we can take a moment to reset. Maybe another anchor breath here, checking in with how we're feeling. Maybe now that we're in stillness again, we notice there's some way the body still wants to move, and we can do that in just a moment. And then once we've had a moment to notice how we're feeling, maybe letting some impulsive movements come in. So maybe we want to hold knees to chest, maybe rock side to side, or windshield wipe the legs side to side, a typical yoga favorite. And I'll give us, again, some options for movement, but you know your body best. If there are other stretches you prefer, feel free to do so. I always like to finish with a variation of figure 4. So we can take our right ankle over our left thigh. Usually we feel a stretch in the outside of the right leg. And as we've been doing these flowing movements, let's do a flowing figure 4. So we can let the legs drop all the way to the right side, or as far as they want to go, and then all the way to the left side. We're still keeping a little bit of warmth in the body by moving, and a little bit of control by controlling the movement of our legs instead of just flopping around. But somewhere in this range of motion, you might feel a really nice stretch, and you want to stay there and hold for longer. Or maybe you want a deeper stretch and we want to do a figure 4 pulling the legs in. We could do that as well, holding behind the left leg and pulling in. Again, we have the option to rock, or some people like to circle. Depends how much room you have with figure 4. Some people have really long arms or long legs, and it just feels like they have more space to move into. Let's see if we can take a deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. And then we'll come on to the other side when we're ready. Left ankle over right. Again, the option to flow. We might like to be moving quite slowly. And anywhere that feels sticky or like it needs a stretch, hang out there even longer. Or maybe you do like that deeper stretch, pulling the legs in, giving them a hug. Maybe like me, you're holding knee and heel. We want to circle the legs. Again, let's see if we can take a deep breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. And then let's give ourselves a final minute here to get out any other movements that you feel like you need. So sometimes people like a variation of waterfall, kicking both feet to the sky, maybe bridge or long stretch. And if we don't know what else to do, maybe windshield wipe the legs again. And then we're going to finish in stillness. So whenever you are ready for stillness, let's come to lie on our backs in sort of a starfish position. And again, we can close the eyes. And if if we're not comfortable closing the eyes, we can do the same thing we did at the very beginning. We can keep the eyes open, but let's keep the muscles of the eye and around the eye relaxed. We might feel more comfortable, our anchor breath, hand to belly and chest, to tune inwards. Once more, checking in with our spine, our chest, our hearts, noticing if we're still feeling any gripping, and if we're aware of any gripping, that is totally okay. It's just information our bodies are sending us. In fact, it might be quite uncomfortable to lie on our backs, in which case you have the option, of course, to lie on your side instead. And without going anywhere or doing anything, let's bring our awareness again to our physical body. We'll finish the same way we started. Let's do a little body scan here. Noticing head to toe, how we're feeling, the temperature of our bodies, if we're feeling energized or sleepy. Noticing the feeling of the right arm, the right leg, noticing the left arm and the left leg. Bringing awareness to hands and feet. Sometimes there can be a feeling of tingling in the hands and feet, or maybe a feeling of busyness, maybe not. And let's pick out something in our bodies that we feel has had a positive experience to being here this evening. And I like to finish with this to give ourselves a little reminder of the benefits of yoga, but on your own terms, noticing what worked for you from that inner teacher voice. And that might be a little motivation to come back to your mat again in the future. And if we're not there already, let's go ahead and finish in a seated position. We can grow our spines tall. Let's take a big stretch up, bring hands to heart center, just to finish with a breath together. Thank you very much for coming. Namaste.
Namaste.